Obviously disappointed in a loss. You're never satisfied, unless you win. Proud of the way they played, proud of the way they came into a good environment and settled down and executed. And at times we didn't execute as well as we needed to. That was certainly in the second and early third quarter. Into the first quarter and all of the second quarter. Thought we came out well in the early part of the third quarter to drive and score and a stop and a punt. But we've got a lot of other things we've got to focus on to get better. But pleased with the way the guys came in and competed against a really good football team.
Questions?
Coach, the 2-minute drive there right before the half, talk about not being able to get that stop going into halftime and then putting 7 more on the board.
I'm sorry, there's like 9,000
That's
things
okay.
happening.
Talk a little bit about the drive, the 2-minute drive that Auburn had right before the half that scored, where they were able to score 7 more points right before the half, and how pivotal that was going into halftime.
Yeah, it's huge. When you can score going into halftime, you're going to obviously gain momentum. And I thought they gained a little momentum going into half, and so our job was to make sure that we come out offensively and go get something, try to answer the score, just try to answer the bell there. But that's a big deal. It's always a big the last 4 and the first 4. People talk about that all the time in football. The last 4 minutes of the first half and the first 4 of the third quarter, those are big in terms of momentum. And thought what we lost, we came and got back in the third quarter. We just got back down there again and didn't convert. We needed to convert in that situation there in the third.
Bishop made a couple mistakes, but it seemed like he held up pretty well for the most part.
I thought he played great. There's a tip ball intercepted. We probably need to catch that. We're leaving the pocket. We got to put the ball away. There's going to be some missed throws here. I've played it long enough to know you're not going to be perfect physically. You're going to miss a guy high or miss a guy low. That's normal, as long as it's not over the top and consistently inaccurate. But I thought he hung in there, did well, handled the rush. The last drive there that we didn't convert on. I mean, hell, he moved us down the field with his legs. It was all scrambles. So I'm very proud of the way he played. It's a tough physical ball game for him. I think he's going to continue to improve.
I think they had really one explosive play. The first touchdown. Other than that, it was kind of chunk yards, maybe just defensively overall. What you say?
That was, that was what Will and I talked about. Is just, listen, if these guys go down the field on a 9-13 play drive and they score 7, then make them earn it. But what I don't want is these 2 and 3 and 4 play Baylor drives, where they're just lighting up the scoreboard. And next thing you know, there's 6 minutes out of the first quarter and it's 21 bump. We need to make them earn it. So we got to do a great job with guys like Singleton and Cam, and 11 can take off and run the ball. And so I thought we did a good job of staying on top of things, keeping things in front of us. Did a good job of tackling. There was a few times we didn't fit the gap well, and 23 shot out of there like a cannon. But for the most part, he had to find his holes. And that's what you got to do against a team that's going to tempo and be explosive. Is you got to match their tempo and just make them earn it. Just nothing free.
Special teams, a couple missed extra points there. Talk about being able to clean that up as the third phase of the game also.
Yeah, we have one penalty, on a punt return where our guy was just blocking and being aggressive by the sideline. Sometimes you're right by the sideline, you don't know if a guy's out or not. I don't think it was, malintent or anything like that. He was just being physical and trying and hustling. And then, he just missed two extra points. I love Hamilton. Hamilton's a great kicker. I have all the confidence and faith in him in the world. You don't accept, negative performances and things like that, but you have to have an understanding as a coach, when a field goal kicker misses, you got to get them right back as best you can mentally. It does no good to holler and scream at a kid at that point. Same thing with Bishop, and the same thing with the quarterback. You miss a throw high. I mean, what are you going to do? Yell at him, tell him throw it lower? I mean, it's not going to fix anything. So, you have to understand that you're dealing with, in the middle of a bout, you're dealing with the mentality of a fighter, and sometimes just how you talk to them and get them through that to the next week is more important.
You guys went to LSU last year, and the game was pretty much over from the first couple of plays. That wasn't the case today. Do you take anything from that?
I mean, I guess, I think so. I mean, I'm going to try to take something away from it. I think the thing that I'm going to take away from it is the guys that were there last year were a little bit more prepared to go into this environment, as opposed to playing in Tennessee at 21, doing nothing in 22, nothing in 23, and then seeing LSU at 24. I'm a former Big 12 guy, but you can't compare Stillwater to Baton Rouge and Auburn. So I think those are some raucous crowds, and I think the guys responded. The ones that were older could kind of help them learn, and I think it's important when you go down and you answer a score. When somebody goes down and scores 7, and you go down and score 3, it's we're here to play. All right, well, we are too. And I thought that helped set the tone for the game. The defense played with confidence and played smart. They didn't always play great, but I thought they played smart. And what Will did today and tried to keep things in front and not let some of their extremely explosive players get off and be extremely explosive.
Coach, from an injury standpoint, I know last week you had sustained some injuries in your secondary, and your linebacking core, talk about their health and moving forward the next week as well.
Yeah, we had a couple guys, we had 3 on defense that were hindered to play, couldn't play, kind of up and down. And, you know, when you get to the Thursday part of practice and they haven't been practicing a lot, you know, that in many cases, that's unfair to the kid. They always want to play, just so you know, they always want to play, and they'll always want to play regardless of whether they're prepared or not, or good. You know, they always want to play. And so on Friday, you know, when you haven't practiced a whole lot, we're not gonna put you out there. You know, regardless of how you feel on Friday, you know, you have to put the work in and know what to do. So those guys, those 3 or 4 guys on defense, I'm hoping will be available this week as we go into conference play.
Just
Coach,
going into
we're
conference
coming
play,
up.
going into conference play, where do you feel like you guys are at?
You know, I feel like we're in a spot where we kind of know what we need to certainly work on, the base fundamentals and kind of who our playmakers may be, and who are some guys that we can trust in some situations. We played, you know, 3 different types of ball clubs with different schemes and different talent levels, and I think we kind of see how our guys stack up against some of those levels and who can make plays in those scenarios and who's a liability and all those things. So I feel like we've got a good handle on who we can be. We just need to work really hard to go do it. What you can happen is you can get out of games like this and think we were really close to playing a really good team. Now we get to play other people that aren't as good as Auburn. Bowl. There's other teams in our league that can do exactly what we just did. Exactly what we just did. So there is no easing up or the competition is all, well, now that we're not playing an SEC. Bullshit. You know, like, no, they're all good. Everybody has scholarships. You better be ready every Saturday. So, you know, I am pleased with where we're at. I mean, I don't like 1 and 2, but I like the way we played in the second half and the style of play that we're getting.
Jeremy Scott seems like a guy that's really coming on, making plays, had a touchdown, David had a couple good catches last week. What do you see of him?
You know, he's going to continue to get better as he gets more playing experience. Him, Jeremiah Thomas, Brendan Jenkins, you know, Micah Woods, all those guys are adding to that wide receiver room where we lost Sandrum, we lost Ivory, we lost Webb, and we lost Pritchett. And so those 4 guys have got to fill the shoes of those 4 guys who took 2 years worth of snaps. So I mean, we're really young. Not an excuse, because I think we still got talent, but we're just play experience. So I think you're starting to see some people get their feet underneath them, like Jeremy.
Anything else? Thank you,
All right,
Coach.
thank y'all. Y'all be safe.